What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? It is Misha B here, back at it again with another video. This time I am coming through as I promised I would before to explain a little bit more about what is fire and the different types of fire. But before we get into that, how about you like and subscribe and join the squad? Pause for my intro. All right, y'all, welcome first and foremost into 2021. We made it despite all of the obstacles in our way. Hey, hello, amen, walk into it. No weapon formed against me shall prosper, and so far, so true. But enough about that, and let's get right into what is FIRE. So FIRE is an acronym that stands for Financial Independence and Retire Early. There are multiple different methods to FIRE, and it really depends on your lifestyle and your personal financial goals. So first thing first, how do you get to this magical number that people refer to as their FIRE number? Well, it's quite simple. All you need to do is multiply your yearly expenses by 25 and voila! That's the number you need to retire. But then it becomes, how do I find out my estimated yearly expenses? Some people base that number off of their yearly expenses right now. So they look at how much money they spend a year on things from housing to random things that might fluctuate, like how much you spend on going out. But they come up with a comfortable number for them based off of what they spend right now in the present. There are also people, though, who kind of estimate their expenses based off of where they want to be in the future. So for example, right now I am a single woman living in New York, and I can base my expenses off of that. Or I can base my yearly expenses off of the fact that one day I'll be married and be a mama. And that will most likely increase my yearly expenses, especially when you look at things like children, because they are expensive. For example, let's say that I wanted to come up with a yearly expense of $50,000. I don't want to spend more than $50,000 a year. I would times that by 25 and get $1,250,000. That would be the number I would need to retire based off of our working knowledge of the Trinity study, which is if I take 4% out of that $1.25 million, I will be able to live off of it for the rest of my life because compound interest will still be working and my investments will still be gaining money even though I am withdrawing something from it. That is the concept of FIRE. You have enough in your investments that they will cover your expenses and you're free to retire early.
All right, y'all. So I wanted to bring you on here so you could actually see the math being done in real time for how you would get to your FIRE number. Again, you're going to look at your annual number of expenses or what you predict to be your annual expenses in the future or what you want your annual expenses to be for the future. So this is really, really personal to you. So I'm just going to go off of the number $50,000 times 25. And voila, here we have that magical number of $1.25 million once again. So again, this is how you kind of figure out, not kind of, I don't know why I said kind of. This is exactly how you figure out what your FI number is for FIRE.
And within that, of course, as we discussed, there are multiple types of methods or ways to get to FIRE that are outside of the traditional, okay, I saved my 1.25 million, peace, I'm retired. So the first one I want to talk about is lean FIRE. Lean FIRE is for folks who roughly don't plan on spending more than $40,000 a year. So their FI number is usually substantially smaller than someone who was going for traditional FI. These are the folks who may be minimalist, folks who love to just like travel and maybe not own a home, or folks who do like the RV type of lifestyle where their yearly expenses aren't too high, where they can afford to live a life of comfort within a certain income We'll say that for lack of a better word.
Okay, y'all. So I wanted to come on here and show you what the lean fire numbers could possibly look like in comparison to the traditional FI of, anywhere between 50,000 up until we'll say like 90,000, which is still a little higher on the higher hand of 90, but just for ease of conversation. So as we said, lean FI stays within or stays under $40,000. So let's see what $40,000 times 25 would be in order for us to get our fire number, and that is 1 million flat. So it is a $250,000 less than our 1.2 million number. Still a nice chunk of change, but as we see, it's substantially less than the traditional FI number. And let's play around with it a little bit more. Let's say we do 35,000 for someone who may be living in a low cost area and who is just very good with their money. Here we have $875,000. And now let's get even more minimalist, right? Let's say this person has paid off their mortgage. They are living a very nice life. They have everything figured out, right? If I could live off of this, child, and they could live off of this, we can make it work. And now we have $750,000. So this is a really cool part is that you can play around with whatever numbers fit you and your lifestyle. As we see here, these numbers range from 30,000 on the lower end to the higher end of lean FI, which is 40,000. And it could really span anywhere in between, like $0, whoever needs $0 to live, kudos to you, or $40,000. And it's again very personal to who you are, but here are the difference in numbers as we saw between the lean FI and traditional FI.
The third that I want to get into is Fat Fire. So Fat Fire are for folks who estimate they're gonna have some yearly expenses, and by some I mean around like $100,000 they plan on spending a year. These are the folks who want to live lavish and enjoy their retirement to the utmost. And these are folks who don't want to spare any expense. Now, there's no right or wrong. It's basically based off of your personal, get what I did there? Preference.
All right, so we are back at it again, looking at the calculator to see what is the difference. Let's compare our fat FI versus our traditional FI versus our lean FI. So as I stated in the video, fat FI goes by the general rule of anyone who wants to live on $100,000 or more a year. Again, it's a general rule and can change depending on person, but we're just gonna go on this number for the sake of ease for this video. So let's do $100,000 times our magical 25, and boom, here we have 2.5 million. Now, if you remember back to our lean FI, which was a million, and then at one point it was $750,000, this number is significantly more. Now, if we compare this to our traditional FI, we notice that this number is double that 1.25 million, which of course makes sense because we are going off of the expense amount of $50,000, which of course is half of $100,000. Now, let's say you want to jazz it up a little bit, play around with a little bit numbers. Let's say someone wants to live off of 125,000. Boo, if you got it like that, you got it like that. I'm not even hating on your life. Here we are with another large number of $3,125,000. Again, this is all about your lifestyle. Whatever is comfortable for you is what makes sense for you. So picking your FI number is very dependent on what type of lifestyle you want to experience in your retirement. Period. Per.
Then one of my favorites is Coast Fire. So Coast Fire is great for folks who are young. So any of my young folks watching this, listen up. Essentially, Coast Fire is when you invest super heavy when you're younger. Once you hit a certain number, you can stop investing because compound interest and time are on your side. Coast Fire is for folks who maybe don't plan on retiring, tomorrow, but they have a certain amount invested based off of how much time that they plan on working, that compound interest will be able to get them to where they need to be. So for example, for me, my COSFI number is $250,000 that I need to have invested in order to get to that 1.25 million. So once I reach that number, and if I never invest again, by the time that I am 62 and ready to retire, boom, I will have that money. So that's for folks who may plan on still working and they have in mind a retirement age that is a little bit longer than the traditional FIRE retire early part, but they won't have to invest as much, meaning that they can kind of live their lives the way they want to once they hit their COSFI number.
Okay, so this is the page I was telling you about, the Pioneers. This is specifically their Instagram, but they also have a blog. They are anonymous folks, an anonymous couple who is on their way to FIRE. And they have on their website a template for you to calculate your COSFI number. And again, this is the number that you need to get to by a certain age, and you do not have to invest anymore once you hit this number because compound interest will work for you. So I'm going to show you all how to do this. And I'm going to hit the COSFI template. As you saw on the page, there are multiple um, copies. So I'm going to make a copy because that's what you have to do. So this is cool that I can actually talk you through that. So you make a copy so that you have your own specific one. You would obviously name it whatever you want. So I'm going to name mine bold budgeter COSFI, just so that I have it. All right, so my current age, you would put in, I am 27, voila. Traditional retirement age, 65. At my job, you can retire at 62. So that's what I'm gonna put in. My FI number we know is I don't wanna mess up anything. Oh, so this where it is actually pink, it says do not edit. So do not edit that part. And I'm so glad that I showed you that. So you'll come to the annual expenses and that's how it will change your FI number. And I'm going to put 50,000, kind of like in our last example. And then this changes. So my coast FI number would be $258,986. I don't know why I just said it like that. So I'll do it again. Again, my COSFI numbers based off of the calculations here would be $258,986. And we can kind of mess around. So this safe withdrawal rate is 3.5%. We know the Trinity study is 4%, so we can do that as well. And this kind of, changes. 3.5 is just very conservative. So if I put it at 4% based on the Trinity study, that brings me to $226,613. If let's say I wanted to retire at 50 instead, it would bring me to $406,964. So obviously, the less time you have until retirement, the more you would need to put away in investments. But if you are someone who, like I said, doesn't really want to retire at or want to retire early, you just want to be financial independent, that number can be much lower in terms of what you need to have in your investments. So that's that. But also showing you at the bottom, they have like a timeline calculator that shows you kind of how long it would take you there. So I have my current age, my retirement age, my investing balance today. You would put that in. I do not have 150,000. So let's just go with, let's say you had $50,000. So that brings you to 5.6 years and then 22.8 years to FIRE. This is, of course, if your income was post-tax 80,000, your annual expenses was 50. So you can really just play around with it. Let's say I made post-tax. Let me think. I don't even know. I have to check my numbers, but we'll just use around 60,000 just for easy numbers. And then let's say that my annual expenses is, say it is. Okay, so I have to update this on the COSFI. Here we go. So how I said the annual expenses. Here, So I'm thinking about what my annual expenses would be in the future. Right now, I'll say my annual expenses is like 30,000. It's not really that much, but we'll see. So in that case, it would be 135,968. Again, this is if I also had $30,000 in the future as my annual expense rates. That is not what I anticipate. So again, I want children and a husband, and I expect all those things to kind of affect my FI number. So I'm just gonna project it at being higher right now. But if that was the case and my annual expenses was 30,000, my COS-FI number would be 155,392, which would bring me to COS-FI in 3 years. And my FI number would be 800,005. Oh my goodness, I cannot talk. $857,143. And that would take me 16.1 years. So this is really, really cool. I suggest everyone go to the Pioneers and go to their blog and play around with these templates to kind of see what your different options are to figure out what makes the most sense for you. All right. All right.
Another popular form of FIRE is called the Barista FIRE, which is also known as semi-retirement. So Barista FIRE is for folks who don't want to work a full-time job. You're overworking 40 hours a week, but you still want to do something part-time. So maybe you work as a barista in a coffee shop, or you work as a librarian in the library, or you work at a bookstore, or maybe you work as like a tour guide in a national park part-time. It essentially gives you the opportunity to chill out and explore part-time work in something that may be a passion area that you wouldn't be able to do full-time. Another benefit is maybe you get some perks as far as insurance at a cheaper rate compared to if you weren't working at all. So for me, which journey or path to FI am I gonna take? Dun, dun, dun. You know, I don't know. I thought it would like be cool. We'll see. So I think right now I am going to go more of the traditional FI. However, I want to do at some point semi-retirement. So when I have children, y'all know how I feel about this. I plan on staying home with them for a little bit and being able to travel the world and do really exciting things with them, or at least that's what I think. Granted, when I have kids, I may feel different. So I plan on doing a combination of semi-retirement or taking a break from work, at least until my children are old enough to go to school, and then maybe going back to being super intense about reaching my FI number. For me, getting to FI is a journey that I want to take and enjoy the whole time, and I'm not in a rush to get there. There are some people who get there super quick and they're done, but they have a really, really terrible experience on their journey, and that's not what I want. So I am willing to be on this journey for a couple of more years if that means that I am enjoying myself and doing things that I want to do while I'm young. So yes, I want the freedom of time, but also understanding like right now, the present is the most important time that we have. So I want to be sure that I'm using that time wisely and stopping to smell the roses and enjoying life. Because at the end of the day, we can do all this planning and the world can go to trash and you might not wake up tomorrow, right? God willing, that is not the truth, but for some people that is. So I just want to make sure that I am utilizing the most of this time that I have on earth, while also being intentional about my future. So you can definitely do both, right? Some people hit you with the YOLO, you only live once, which is absolutely true, right? Another thing is that life can also be long. And I want to put things in motion to manifest a long life, which means I need to be intentional about my future. So for me, I am in the moment and loving every second of it. Well, maybe not every second because I have been checking my net worth every day like a crazy person, waiting to see how soon I will get to, that 100K mark. But I am mainly enjoying every second of it while also intentionally building my future so that I can be as free as possible. Hey, pop, pop. That's my freedom dance. Okay. But anyway, that is all I have for you. So peace, peace, peace. In the meantime, in between time, stay blessed and stick to your budget in the best way you know how. I will see y'all next week.